Hello, bad evening, and welcome to the Gunnerstown pub, which I'm sure is going to be a cheerful place for the next few minutes. We're going to try and keep this short today. I don't see any reason for dragging it out any longer than it's been drug out already. But it's great to have some guests here with me tonight. In your top right-hand corner in the black screen, we've got Andy Guna South. Hello, Andy.
Hi guys, how you doing?
I think that's a rhetorical question, right?
Yeah.
And in the bottom left corner, wearing the clock end t-shirt, we've got Gav at Shiwar. How are you, Gav?
Hi.
Also rhetorical. And smiling in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got Dave Seeger. Dave, thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm very well, very well.
So what's everyone drinking in the pub? I've got gin. I wish it had a little bit of cyanide in. Could probably take the pain away. Andy, what do you got going?
I've got a glass of red wine now. I've just poured it out. A big one.
Very classy. Very classy.
Yeah.
Gav?
My midweek Foster's.
Okay. Dave's got coffee.
Yeah. I don't have much alcohol in the house. I'm a pub drinker.
Right, yeah, and that's sadly, we're a virtual pub, so just drink some virtual alcohol tonight. That wasn't fun. Let's start with you, Dave. Do you want to give us your hot take?
Oh, hot take. Well, I mean, you can't put your finger on it, but the hot take is the same as it's been all season. We don't seem to have any urgency in the first half of games, and you can sort of get by for so long coming alive in the second half, but in the biggest game of the season, by some distance, you'd expect to show urgency from minute one. Not, throwing everything in the kitchen sink, because obviously they're a good side, but just lack of forward momentum, lack of urgency, 2 passes instead of 1 all the time, a sideways pass before a forward pass, just lack of urgency. And even when we did, start doing it a bit better at the beginning of the second half, it didn't last. Just inexplicable.
Right. Gav?
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't too concerned about the fact that we went in at half-time with a clean sheet, because if we had, as Dave said, thrown the kitchen sink at it and got hit on the break and we needed 2 in the second half, then it would have been next to impossible. So I weren't too disheartened at half-time, but to narrow it all down and to be as basic as I can, we're just fucking shit.
we can be.
We have to get that basic. We've got too many. I mean, there's only 3 players that I actually would, 3 maybe 4 players I'd actually care if I ever saw wearing an Arsenal shirt again.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's not get too carried away. Save some for Andy. You've eaten all the meat off the bone there, Gav. Andy, what's your hot take?
My hot take is that if this is the process that I'm watching, I've been asked to go along with for this season, it's not for me. But I alluded to the fact that watching the game earlier, we are too defensive-minded and we're too interested in keeping the ball. I understand modern football. I do get that. This isn't for me. It doesn't work for Arsenal because I just think it just doesn't work. They hold the ball too long. There's no forward momentum, as Dave said earlier. It's not quick enough. And I don't want to drag it out, but the process ain't working for me.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I'd say my hot take is that our game management from our coach and our game management from our players just seems to suck. We attack everything upside down. We squeeze ourselves through a smaller and smaller hole, make it harder and harder to achieve the little thing that we do have to achieve. Like Dave says, if you're going to get off to a slow start and then try and throw the kitchen sink at the other team in extra time, you're fighting a losing battle. You should throw the kitchen sink in the first 5 minutes and then cruise the rest of the way.
We didn't even throw the kitchen sink.
We didn't, did we?
They were the better side in the last 10 minutes, which is phenomenally depressing. And I had to say, much as he wasn't affecting the game all the way through, there was no need to take Aubameyang off. He wasn't tired. There was absolutely no need at all to take him off the pitch.
And he hit the post twice, right?
Well, he took him straight off after he nearly scored. Astonishing. I think the other thing is, as we were just saying there, we've got to get the ball forward quicker. We've got so many fast, pacey attacking players, and they're playing with the ball. We want them on the end of the ball. We don't want them part of the build-up all the time. Pepe's part of the build-up all the time. When Gabby came on, he was so out on the left in our own half. We want these players running behind. We want Aubameyang running behind. I mean, he's not as fast as he was 2 years ago, but he's still faster than most defenders. And we probably played balls over the top 3 or 4 times, and they were only diagonals. They weren't, through balls or balls over the top centrally. When you've got players like that, you have to play those balls. We're just not playing them.
And that's the thing I was saying earlier, Dave. I was saying that when I played, the manager will shout, you play the way you're facing. So if you get the ball, you've got to score in the other goal. So you play the way you're facing. If you look at our players, they play with their back to the opposition goal. So their first fault, their first touch, their first momentum is either sideways or backwards. And as Dave just said, ping the ball forward. Martinelli wants to go forward. Pepe made his name going forward, looking forward. We don't play that way. That's tactics for me. And it's not good.
Not sure what some of that came out a little bit R2D2 for my liking, but I think I get the gist. Gav, did you think that I don't know, was there an issue with the way that we lined up? I mean, it felt like we had the team on the pitch that should have been able to do the deed, right?
We did. I mean, that Odegaard had an absolute stinker. I don't know how he stayed on the pitch. I would have pulled him at half time. I thought he was absolutely dreadful. Partey, Jesus Christ. I mean, I was saying before the game, if they played Coquelin, we're going to win. But I would have swapped Coquelin for Partey after that performance. He was absolutely dreadful, Partey, all game, missing passes, getting caught with the ball. Do you know what I mean? I don't understand, what he was doing half the time. And it was just a mixture of, unfortunately, too many players just playing badly. And that's whether you can break it down and we can all be smart and talk about coaching and positions and formation. But when you've got too many players on the pitch that just simply are not good enough for that level and are not good enough at Arsenal level, then shit like this is going to happen. And it's going to continue to happen.
Do you think, though,
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think a lot of those players are good enough for Arsenal. I just don't think they're being coached properly.
We've just got knocked out by Villareal, and I mean, you can't tell me that Partey had a good game tonight. You can't tell me
but he's doing the job of 2 men, Gav.
You can't tell me that he had a good game tonight.
No, he didn't, and he's doing. And I think they did it in commentary. They were giving him the ball. They played 4-4-2. You've got Odegaard who wants to go forward, so his positioning is a little bit further forward. You've got Smith Rowe who wants to get the ball either wide. Partey's in the middle getting the ball. He's got 2 or 3 players around him. That's coaching for me. Partey might have had, and this is I'm going to give him a little bit of thing. This is his first season, but that's coaching. If you can't pick that up as a manager and go, and listen, you'll never hear me say this often, we missed Xhaka tonight, because Xhaka would have filled in the little gaps between where Partey was getting the ball and getting caught. Xhaka would have been in there. I felt sorry for the kid tonight. I felt he was, I don't know. I thought he was
even when you weren't pressed, the ball was wide. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, one second. I think Dave had a point there that I don't want to get lost.
I'm sort of agreeing with Andy, but Gav, you are completely wrong. I'm sorry, mate. It wasn't. You're saying it's nothing to do with tactics. It was absolutely everything to do with tactics, as Andy said. If you're leaving a very good player, however good he is, in an isolated position, in a formation that we haven't played on one single occasion this season. We haven't played 4-1-4-1. In our biggest game, he selected a team just because of Xhaka's injury. He could have easily put Saka at left back and put El Neni in midfield and played the same 4-2-3-1 we played all season, and Partey wouldn't have been on his own. But he chose not to do that. He chose to leave Partey on his own and play Odegaard and Smith Rowe in the middle. It didn't work. Partey was doing the job of 2 men, and yes, it made him look bad, but that was all about tactics. all
Yeah, I
about
agree. I agree with that.
I kind of agree. I feel like with the way the team was lined out,
Sorry,
I
I'm
felt.
just watching replays of Party giving the ball away when he weren't
Yeah, no,
even playing.
Gav. Yeah, but what you're trying to say is that.
Carry on.
Well, I think what Dave's trying to say is it's not because Party's a shit player; it's because he was put in a position where his responsibilities. He's trying to do too many.
You've got to be honest. Party had it. Like I say, whatever way you want to look at it, Party had a shit game tonight. You can't tell me Party played well. If you
There's
can,
a difference between saying Party had a shit game and Party's a shit player.
Tonight, then go for
Okay,
it.
Gav. Yeah, you made your point. But I think there's a difference between saying Party is a shit player and Party had a shit game, and he might have had a shit game because of
Well, that's what I said. I didn't say he's a shit player. I said he had a shit game tonight.
Okay.
The majority of them had a shit game tonight. I mean, we had like what we hit. Okay, yeah. I mean, like the positives, we hit the post twice, right? But the negatives are we looked very limp going forwards. You know what I mean? And Xhaka looked
laboured,
like wanting to the ground. Do you know what I mean? There was just no real enthusiasm or energy. I mean, they would not have got away with that performance if there were 60,000 people in the ground screaming them on. That performance would not have happened because they would have got a little bit of extra energy from the crowd basically screaming at them for 90 minutes. So, but like I say, but the issue is really, it was just tonight, there was just too many players that were actually underperforming by miles.
Yeah.
By miles.
No, I think that's true. I think my overall perception was that it was, you could tell, and I've said this before on the Pubcast, is you can kind of tell what the outcome of the game is going to be by the energy and the way that we attack the first 5-10 minutes. And when we're slow into games, it's a death by 1,000 cuts. Every pass is clung onto a second longer than it needs to be. Like Dave said, there's 2 or 3 touches where there only needs to be 1. There's no incisiveness. Andy mentioned something off screen before we started to say that he doesn't think that he's seen an Arsenal team that plays as much of the game with its back to goal as this one does. And I think that's a fair point. Andy, have you got something that you want to expound on that? Or?
Well, I think I made the point earlier that when I played football, you played the way you faced. It's just a simple. So you get the ball and you look up and somebody's running forward. You go, well, I can put them in there. We don't do that. It goes from side to side to side, and then it will go back, and then they'll try and ping one forward. But by this time, the players, again, have all got back into their positions. They're looking for the ball, so they're facing away from the goal they're going to. That's coaching from me, sorry.
Even more so when you know
coaching.
how organised Emery was going to have them, because they knew, whatever Emery's faults, the players know what to do when they haven't got the ball. They did when he was at Arsenal. Mustafi said that in the first few months. The difference is between Emery and Wenger is we all know what to do when we haven't got the ball, and that was obvious with Villareal tonight. Every time we were slow, it gave them a chance to get back into their positions, and they're very good at it.
So he's out-coached him tonight, Dave, hasn't he?
No, you totally.
Yeah,
I mean,
not just the muscle attack, but that. Sorry, go on.
I said a lot of people have out-coached him this season.
Yeah, and I think that has become obvious, and I think Emery realised he knew his game plan tonight. I'm not sure Arteta did, if I'm honest.
Well, I'm going to take a couple of seconds here just to go through some of the comments because, as it always is when we've had a shit result, our Arsenal fans have got lots of opinions to share, and I'm just trying to go through the ones that are basically fuck, shit, we're shit. Because there's some decent comments here. I think the overriding one, and I think we're going to have to discuss this at some point, is the Arteta out thing. But here's one. The biggest game in a few seasons. There was no passion, no desire, no will, no drive. It was easy for Villareal, and they fully deserved to go through for me over 2 legs. Arteta made some shocking choices, and for me, this defeat lays at his feet. Absolutely shocking. Sad to be an Arsenal fan recently. Arteta is clueless. Over 2 legs, we only score a penalty. But here's one. Let's touch on this for a little bit. No European football might be a blessing in disguise. Revenue coming in might tempt the owners to sell, clutching at straws. I know. I like this. I like this comment because it's almost like something positive coming out of it when actually it's really fucking negative. We don't have European football. We have no money. We've got crappy owners.
To be honest with you, we've seen Leicester thrive without European football in recent seasons. We saw Chelsea win the league without European football. It's not a ridiculous comment. The only question is whether we're still big enough to attract good players without European football. And yes, of course we are, because we're the Arsenal. The question is not whether we can attract big players. The question is whether that coach is the player, the manager that is going to attract good players. I thought he was. He certainly has attracted good players. Him and Edu, as a combined package, loving the club, seemed quite compelling. Whether players will still feel that after the way we've fallen away this season is a tough one to call.
Process. Gab, do you have thoughts on being out of Europe? Is there a positive spin in this? Do we finally not get? Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, like I say, the positive spin is that there's less games next season, so our younger players can hopefully be more, be fitter. The fact that whoever is the coach or manager will have to play a first team for the FA Cup, which is one of my biggest gripes this season, that we rested players for the FA Cup and went out stupidly. And yeah, so I mean that is the only spin. I mean, yeah, it would be nice if the Cronkies, left us and we had a open, honest, transparent owners who actually want the best for our club. But like I say, you can't force billionaires to sell things they don't want to sell. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I think Arsenal as a club have dodged so many bullets by kind of last minute, last gasp, silverware, like an FA Cup here, put a bandage on, a couple of, on Wenger's last few years and had him stick around longer than maybe he should have. It's kind of, it's happened a few times. Tonight, I thought it might, in which case we would have just saved the pain for next week when Manchester United would probably have run circles around us. But that didn't happen this time. Andy, do you think that, finally, not scraping through with the last gasp silverware or, a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, do you think this is maybe good for the club in the long run?
I don't actually know, Paul. I actually really, really fear for the way this club is going. And I look upstairs, I look at the fan base. I've never known in all my years of going a divided football club as it is now. So the fact that we've now got no European football, I mean, you can nick positives out of it if you want. You can say that, yes, the youngsters will have to play. You'll have to do a full squad for the FA Cup. I actually, for the first time in my life, fear for the direction this club's going. And it doesn't bode well for me, mate, if I'm honest. I'm a bit cautious as to the football side of it, because I think Arteta's a little bit out of his depth, if I'm honest. But as for the rest of it, the football worlds are changing, I think, and it's not for me.
Okay, so I think that the big white elephant in the room is whether Arteta should be allowed to continue, whether it's time to not trust the process anymore. Dave, thoughts on?
No, I've been fully backing him all season. I loved him as a player. I love him as a man. I got to my Emery moment at Sheffield United away last week with Arteta. So, I after that away performance last week and the selection and the substitutions, I drew a line under it. So I don't think he will be got rid of, but I wouldn't be unhappy. And I didn't think I'd be saying that. But yeah, last week I'm there with Arteta. I'm beyond worrying about it now. If he goes, he goes, and I won't be upset.
Gav?
Well, like I say, that if that's the case, like I say, we had a bulk of players that eventually got Wenger the sack, who then eventually got Emery the sack. And if you look at tonight's game, this is going to sound really terrible, right? But if you look at the players that actually had a decent game today, it was Smith Rowe, Saka, Holding, Tierney, and even Bellerin, right? Apart from them, I can't really name anybody that had a decent game tonight. So what are the rest of them doing? Oh, okay, Mari done all right as well. Leno didn't let in a goal, yeah, right. But the rest of the attacking players and the midfielders was just done nothing for me. So I do think that there's still a few players that we've got in the squad that just aren't hungry enough. And the position we're in as a club at the moment, and we've got a young, hungry manager who's, this time, not even a year ago, won us the FA Cup. And he needs to get, like I say, we've just got to really sort of look at ourselves, and this is where we are. We're a 9th, 10th mid-table team. We've got to build like Leicester have done in the past. We've got to build like West Ham have done in the past. And we've got to get young, hungry players with talent into Arsenal. And it doesn't matter who the coach, manager, or whatever his name is now. That's where we've got to go from here, especially this summer, especially next year. We've got to be looking at nicking some of the best young players from teams like Norwich, from teams like Brighton, from teams like West Brom. That's where we've got to go forwards. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going nowhere. That's where I stand with it. And not to say under the ownership, we are going nowhere. There's going to suddenly break a habit of a lifetime and actually put their money in the pocket.
Yeah, but therein does lie the positives. You've got Martinelli, Saka, Smith Rowe's just about to extend. You've got all these players: Tierney, Saliba, Gabriel, not Gabby, but Gabriel. These players are all 23 and under, and all on 3 or 4 year contracts now. So, we are in a good position in that sense, where we haven't been for many years under the end of Wenger. We've got most of our core of the players we all want to be at the club are on long-term contracts. And whether you agree with Marty or not, he is on a long-term contract. So that's a positive. And I agree with Gav. You'd be going after Max Aarons, you'd be going after Yves Bissouma. These are players that if the other top 6 don't want them, we're a bigger club than that they're at. So these are the players we can sign. If we do want Buendia instead of Odegaard, and by the way, Odegaard, I agree with Gav, awful tonight. And in fact, since he came out from injury, he's just looked off the pace. And I certainly wouldn't be spending 35, 40 million for Real Madrid to get him.
No.
So there are lots of good players that we can look at in the lower echelons, or even players from Norwich who are getting promoted, or Brentford. There's a lot of good players out there. Chelsea are looking at Ivan Toney. Why? We're not, but why aren't we? So
I think
sorry to cut in on you, Dave, but you'll know more than me. Who the striker at Brentford?
Ivan Toney.
Phenomenal season. Absolutely phenomenal season. Sorry, go on,
I think Dave, we're still kind of suffering a hangover from some of the purchases and some of the weird, crazy deals. I'm talking about the Willians and having people on loan for 2 years. I think there are luckily some people that we can get rid of at the end of the season that won't be too difficult. I think there's people that we've tried to get rid of this year that are out on loan, I think, that are coming to the end of their contracts. I think we're at a point, luckily, where we can really get rid of a lot of deadwood because they've just come to the end of their contract. They've wound it, they've run it down. And as Dave says, I think if we just do some shrewd, purchasing and get young players who Premier League or Championship proven, if we can get those kind of people in and use that to build, I think we've got youngsters of our own. I don't think we need to bring in new youngsters from other clubs. Let's develop the youngsters that we have, give them a chance, and get some kind of mid-20s, semi-experienced.
Football's changed, and we can't argue that, but it's exactly what George Graham did. George Graham brought in the experienced Dixons and Bolds and Smiths to blend with the fantastic youth that came through under Don Howe. And you can't tell me that football has changed that much. That still can work. We've seen it work. We've seen players be signed from the Championship. And don't want to mention Spurs, but Dele Alli went from 2 tiers down to starring, for England in 2 years. It can be
Jamie
done.
Vardy, yeah.
Jamie Vardy, there are players out there. And I think Norwich, Max Aarons, I would go after him all day. I think he's a fabulous player. So, yeah,
But if you're going to get a young player in, as you guys have both said, and then his first touch of the ball is facing away from the other goal, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm missing the thing here, but it is coaching. You can't have, like Max Aarons, looks up, pins the ball, goes. Lovely, looks like a decent player. But he's not going to, he's back to goal, get the ball, lay it back to Mari, who's then going to lay it out to Tierney. Go to your original point, Paul, not for me anymore, Arteta. I don't trust the process. I don't see what he's doing. I really don't see some of his tactics and some of his substitutions and some of his purchases. Willian, for me, and to continue to play him, I think I'd say this to somebody the other day I was sat outside the garden in the pub. I would have done when Wenger went. I would have probably offered the job to someone like Benitez to come in, steady the shit for 18 months. All right, he's not going to do what he's not going to set the world alight. But these two that have come in since, Emery and Arteta now, they're massive jobs, and I think it's been beyond both of them. Whereas Benitez would have come in, maybe just steadied it a little bit. Maybe his tactics can't be any worse than Arteta's. Sorry.
You can't tell though, can you? You can't tell.
Yeah,
it was only 6 months ago. It's only 6 months ago that all the Arsenal fans who didn't like Arteta were going, "Oh, we should have got Ancelotti." Everton has spent far more money than Arsenal, and they're awful. Whereas no one would have wanted David Moyes, and he's done sensational business for West Ham. So,
what about Allegri, Dave?
Well, I would, absolutely. But Juventus want him back, and he's not going to choose, Arsenal over Juve. I would take Allegri, but I said a lot of fans, including me, probably would have opted for Ancelotti because of all that experience, like Benitez, as you're saying. And I think I watch Everton, and they're awful, and they've got lots of good players. They've got players I would take, and they're not that good.
Absolutely.
And West Ham under David Moyes, if you'd asked you would have found not one single Arsenal fan who would have wanted David Moyes at the club. And now they're all saying, "Oh, why can't we do what David Moyes did?" It's just ridiculous. You can't.
I understand that. I get that. No, you don't know. But what you do know is that Arsene Wenger was there for 21 years and kind of made the club his own. So I think then to change it with somebody who didn't really know English football to come in and then go, "Well, hang on, you've been doing it this way for 21 years. I'm going to do it this way." It hasn't worked, has it, for either of them?
Well, whoever was coming in after Wenger was doomed to fail. There's no way in the world that anybody was going to last like 2 years in that role because there was just too much of a rebuild to do. And like I say, we're still suffering now, whether you like it or not. We're still paying wages on players that are playing for other clubs, which is affecting the amount of wages and the amount of transfers that we can spend at the moment due to deals that were done under Wenger and bloody Gazidis.
Yeah, but hold up, Gav, as well. Also, but Williams come in on a 3-year deal at 30, whatever he is. That wasn't anything. That's a hierarchy, isn't it? That's not. Couldn't have wanted him that much, surely.
No, I'm with you on that one. I don't think that was. I wasn't too happy about that when it happened, but at the same time, you're thinking you're getting an experienced player with no transfer fee, and whatever his wages are, they're probably affordable. I think, like I say, that was just a case of needs must at the time. It was trying to get a little bit more experience, and whether you like it or not, Willian has won a lot of trophies. So it was trying to get a winning mentality, blah, blah, blah. It wouldn't bother me if Willian never played for Arsenal again. Yeah. It wouldn't bother me at all. But I can understand why that transfer was made at that time, Andy.
Yeah. Well, if you're trying to get away from the Wenger years of giving older players big contracts and then having them leave for no money. Would a club not bitten by that? Ramsey and just leaving?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how much money he's on, mate. I ain't got a clue.
So much, whatever it is.
I think we kind of touched on the fact that Arteta has inherited, a squad that maybe had potential, wasn't wasn't great. Then there were some decisions, some transfers that were made that were curious. I mean, Pepe, our highest transfer player, has not proved really to be worth that. And when you look into that deal, it seemed strange. There's a few things that Arteta inherited apart from the players. He also inherited a pandemic and a really shitty season. Does that give him? I mean, is that what gave us? Is that what got him kind of a green card for as long as he did, and now it's just enough? We can't give him credit for that anymore, or does that still count for something? Because there are other clubs that are big clubs that have suffered. Klopp has been underachieving.
Emery's already said he didn't want Pepe. He wanted Zaha. Yeah. So is that the upstairs again saying? So again, it all goes back for me to the who's making the decisions to go. I'll tell you what. Let's give a fella who's a number 2. He's never had a big job in his life. Let's put him in. And to me, it's almost as if they want to steal a march on everybody else. He's a great young coach. He's a number 2. Let's go with it and let's see what happens. That's not Arsenal. Allegri should have come in. For me, he was my number 1 from day one. Should have come in and gone, right, what's that? But they won't, because someone like Allegri would come in and go, no, you don't do it that way. No. You want to buy a player, you're not the player that I want. No, that doesn't work for me, sorry. And that's sadly where I think we find ourselves.
I'd like to just address a couple of these the comments basically regarding the Arteta out thing. We've had comments. Shubendra Mikel says, I think Rodgers is the man who can take us out of this shit. Everton are above us in the league regarding Ancelotti. Russ Morgan here says, Chelsea were in our position Christmas time. They got Tuchel and now they're in the Champions League final. Obviously, Spurs have got rid of Mourinho, so he could take his hefty paycheck for failing. The club needs more stability than anything. Swapping another manager won't help. This is from James Holly. We just need better players. Giving Arteta another season will not make any difference, and he could move up something.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that is.
Brendan Rodgers is another one that I would have taken from Celtic, but I remember saying that at the time, and I was like, "You're mad, Dave. Why on earth would we want somebody who failed at Liverpool?" And now, of course, they want him. So it's just another example of being wise after the event, isn't it?
2020.
I do agree with Andy that it was they do seem to be trying to do things on the cheap.
Oh goodness. We were going to keep it short tonight, so I think I'd like to kind of wind this up a little bit because we're just going in circles. I think we could probably do a whole pubcast on who we replace Arteta with and what the solution is, and right now I think we just need to lick our wounds.
That's the thing. They're not going to replace him. Do you know what I mean? The amount of money that it will cost them to replace Arteta after installing him as a manager and giving him more money and this, that, and the other, it's not going to happen. They're not, like I say. I've got no fears or no anxieties or no whatever. Look, Arteta will be with us till at least Christmas. Do you know what I mean? If we're 9th or 10th come Christmas, then I think that's time for that. Then he's going to go, but they're not going to sack him. Do you know what I mean? We've got owners who know nothing about football. Do you know what I mean? We've got owners that can write all they know about football on a stamp. We've got a CEO who's, apart from being a bit of a thief, allegedly, with my silver money, you bastard, right? Again, he knows nothing about football, right? We've got a board that knows nothing about football. It's, like I say, that's the issue. The issue is starting completely at the top. And you can't, like I say, it's ridiculous. You can't run a business by not knowing about the business. And that's where we are at the moment. From
that's what they're doing, Gav.
To the CEO, to the board. So that's where we are. And if we get rid of Arteta and we get somebody else, we've still got people above him who know nothing about football.
You've hit the nail on the head, though, Gav. You've hit the nail on the head. They are running a business as a bit. They don't give a monkeys about the football. The Giza Monkey Stadium in America about 3,000 miles. He don't care about fans. It's about the dollar. He's not worried. He's not interested in all that. So Arteta is probably the perfect man for him, and so is this, Vin, to say what his name is, who's running and saying, no, we're self-sufficient. No, don't put any money in. We're self-sufficient. We're going to give a 32-year-old 150 grand a week for 3 years. Surely someone as a businessman, Gav, you run a business. If someone come to you and said, well, yeah, I can make you 30 grand a week, but I ain't going to make people that happy, you're going to go, I don't care. Is that am I right?
Yeah, no, I mean,
that's Arsenal Football Club 2021.
No, it's just a ridiculous state that we're in as a club. And you like say, if you can say, oh, we'll put somebody else in. I mean, Emery had a good record. Do you know what I mean? He had a very, very decent record, and probably a lot better than every single. Yeah, in fact, he probably won more trophies than any other manager taking over Arsenal. George Graham, I don't think he won it. He won promotion, and that was about it. Wenger won a couple of bloody egg fried rices out in Japan, right? And moaned that he got conned at Monaco, right? Yeah, I mean, Emery had all of the credentials to be a decent manager, and just nothing's going to change. So I mean, we can change the managers. Do you know what I mean? But
so the last person to leave should just basically switch off the lights. Is what you're saying?
I mean, that's the only reason why I actually like Arteta is the fact that Arteta is giving faith and blood in the young players from our academy. That's the only sort of shining light that I've got for him at the moment. The fact that that's what he's doing, and with our owners. If I was a manager of Arsenal and I knew that my job was secure for the next 2 or 3 years, I'll be playing all the young players. I'll be blooding Balogun for the end of the season. The season's over. Get Balogun in. Do you know what I mean?
Aziz in the middle as well.
Yeah. The young left back fella as well, who's playing at the moment.
Yeah.
I'll be blooding him because
and Charlie Brett.
Yeah, that's the only way that we're going to do it, because our owners don't understand. If they looked at Chelsea and Man City and looked at the revenue streams of Chelsea and Man City, they would realise that the Chelsea and Man City owners have put a lot of money in, but they've actually seen their revenue streams double, treble, go up 5 times. Our owners are that stupid and know that little about British football and English football that they don't realise that when you win things, you earn more money. So you have to speculate to accumulate. Anyway, I could go on all night. Well,
yeah, you could. It sounds like you're going to anyway. So, Dave, what do you think we should do for the rest of the season? Is it worth, like Gav says, throw in the academy guys and give them some time and just what would you do?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd certainly give. I mean, if Nketiah is going to be sold or Lacazette's not going to get a new deal, I would give Balogun some game time. But no, I don't think there's any need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think he needs to decide what he's back to. Is going to be. Keeps changing it all the time. Gabriel's in, Mary's in, Holding's in, Louise is back in, Chambers played at the weekend. He's got to make some decisions and stick with it, because even though there's a close season, momentum is important. And he has got a core of good young players, but some of them are tired. So yeah, there's definitely room for rotation. But no, I mean, I still want to finish as high as we can in the league. I still want to beat Chelsea and stop them going in the Champions League. There's lots of things, There's 4 games to be won, and I think we can win all 4 of them.
Is there still a chance we'd qualify for the European under conference thing, whatever it is?
The Intertoto Cup? No, I don't think we want to qualify for that, to be honest. I'd rather finish 8th.
We've got to be careful that we don't do too well. Otherwise we're going to end up playing in I don't know where.
The way we're going, I think we've got a good chance in the Daft Windscreen Trophy. So just do that one.
Yeah, exactly. Do you guys have any strong feelings about Daniel Ek and this bid? I mean, as a musician, I just got to say that, when I heard there was a billionaire interested in buying Arsenal, I thought, well, is it an oligarch? Is it a sheik? And they were like, no, it's not. It's a billionaire. I was like, is it Bezos? Is it Musk? And they were like, no. I was like, okay, who is it? And like Daniel Ek. I'm like, not Spotify guy, like the guy that's been like stealing money from musicians. He built his entire platform on just screwing the artist. I was like, oh, why does it have to be that guy? Because, you guys have any thoughts about that?
What I do like about it, Paul, is the fact that the thing that Wenger didn't do, he's going to have some legends around him, some people that have done it at a highest level. And I'm always quite surprised when David Seaman said, why he wasn't goalkeeping coach, and just people that you'd have around a club that maybe, that won everything. Thierry Henry's involved. It's looking at, Bergkamp maybe, and I always wondered why Tony Adams wasn't involved at the Arsenal. I'm not saying as a manager, I'm not saying that, but as a defensive, like-minded coach, and I think that Daniel Ek looks like he's had a few conversations with people that know the club. I'm not sure that Vinkashatiam or whatever his name is, I don't think he knows the club. So I'm quite impressed with that. I'm like Gav, I can't see him selling.
I think it's a smart move with Daniel Ek. As a businessman, he knows that if you get, Thierry and Dennis Bergkamp and Vieira on his side, then the fans will pretty much be on his side. So, I'm just not sure at the end of the day how much of the running of the club I would put in the hands of the Invincibles. You know what I mean? I'm not sure.
Some of those guys aren't even friends. They don't even speak to each other. I think Vieira and Henry aren't even on speaking terms as far as I'm aware. So I'm not sure how much truth there is in this. I mean, they're not, just because they play together doesn't mean they're all best buddies and they all want to work together.
Right, or that they could solve Arsenal's problems. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Andy, but we do have Per Mertesacker running the academy. We've got Arteta as a club captain, as a coach. I mean, we've got a lot of Arsenal. We had Freddie. We've got Arsenal DNA kind of in there. For me, I think we're missing the kind of David Dean kind of person who's got Arsenal in his blood, but knows how to do the business too and make deals.
That's why I'd be more interested in Mark Overmars than the 3 ex-players.
That's kind of where I was leading to. I think having somebody that's got that experience would probably be more useful in the long run.
That Daniel Ek, though, he was playing. He's played completely to the crowd.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's an opportunist. I think.
I want to put it in for Arsenal. Who can I get that will make me sound credible? I know. I'll offer 3 Arsenal legends a decent amount of money.
And free publicity with Thierry Henry on every talk show.
Who's that? Him, Akil and Lois?
But it's like I say,
but there was a downside, Gav, as well. We wanted to bring Wenger back, so for me, I'd be hanging myself in the shed.
Yeah, no, you couldn't.
Not for me.
You couldn't do that. I mean, obviously hindsight's a marvellous thing, but what Wenger should have done was gone upstairs 3 or 4 years before he eventually got sacked as being a manager. That's what Wenger should have done. But like I say, with the horrendous decisions Wenger made with transfers and not bringing youth through, etc. And like I say, I mean, to go back to what somebody said about Per Mertesacker, from what I've spoke to with journalists in the past on different podcasts who are German and do specialise in German football, actually having a German in charge of the youth setup is absolutely the best thing to do. I mean, I'll never forget it. I was on one.
Well, Jens Lehmann's free.
Yeah.
The madman,
and also a complete lunatic. But like I say, I was on a podcast.
A racist, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I was on a podcast years ago, and I was talking to somebody, and they were saying that when the German kids get their first contracts, and they get their first big contracts at age 17, 18, they feel embarrassed to go out and buy a new car. So they all go out and buy like second-hand Golfs and 3 or 4 year old cars. And he said the difference between them and the English kids, look, they get their first contract and they're out buying 80 grand motors and stuff like that. He said it's a mentality that you haven't quite made it yet. And I can see that when I look at Saka and when I look at Smith Rowe. They're hungry because they know, even though they're playing for the Arsenal, they haven't made it yet. They're still hungry. And that's what I like, and that's what hopefully we're going to see more of from the players that are coming through from Howland and Per Mertesacker.
Yeah, I'm encouraged by the attitude of the players coming through the academy. I do think that they've rescued our season, just after Christmas, and they've kind of been the one thing that's made it worth watching. Like you said, the Sackers and the TNEs, Smith Rowes, a few of the youngsters coming through, make it, worthwhile still investing in the Arsenal because, this has a future. There's something that you can cling to. You can have hope in because it's the hope that kills you in the end. But, I think, there are some things that we can look forward to. European football's not one of them.
The end of the season's probably worth looking forward to.
Not driving through Blackwall Tunnel. That's worth looking forward to.
The last game of the season, Brighton, when I believe more pubs are going to be more open, and like I say, I'll be
10,000 fans.
I'll be I'll be very, very surprised if there's not possibly. I mean, like I say, the process the other week was probably one of the two biggest I can remember against the board. The other one being a BSM protest about 10 years ago. But like I say, I can feel that the Brighton game will probably be the biggest protest ever at Arsenal over the ownership of the club.
I think there are big things planned, but I do think that's.
I don't think anything has to be planned. Like I say,
I think there are already. I mean, on different levels. I think there's lots of different levels that we can protest the owners. Not just physically on the ground. Everywhere in the media. There's lots of places to hit them. I think, but I do think you're right, Gav. Brighton's going to have and especially with the result tonight, I think.
I mean, with all due respect to all the overseas fans and anybody who can't go down to the Brighton game, but like I say, I think outside the ground on the Brighton game is going to be rather interesting. I think it's going to be. I think so.
Tonight's probably added some fuel for that fire too, so that's not a bad thing. I think
it was always going to.
Yeah, we need to put pressure on the owners. But Gav, I think we're going
to. I need to go. So
yeah, let's. We could go on and on about the owners and stuff, and it was a tough night tonight. But I appreciate you guys coming out and joining me in the virtual pub. With that, I think we're just going to do the play out in the video. So, Andy, thanks for joining us.
You don't want a man of the match,
finally.
I don't want a man of the match. I don't want to highlight a low light.
I thought the referee had a good game. There you go.
The referee was great. I liked his blue shirt. It was cool.
El Neni was our best player.
El Neni was fantastic.
Never thought you'd hear me say so that day, did you?
When I saw Willian coming on, I was like, what the fuck is going on with this club?
At left back.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for...
Willian didn't seem to know who was actually supposed to be there. Anyway.
I've got a person on the match. That Karen woman who was commentating on BT was actually better than most of our players. So that Karen, as awful as she is, she can have my match. She can have my person of the match.
Okay, brilliant. Well, I don't know who you're talking about because we didn't have any Karens on our broadcast.
Lucky you.
Anyway, folks, thanks so much for joining us, and for all of you that watched and listened and made comments and contributed to tonight. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining us in the Gunnerstown pub, and we'll see you after the next match. Thanks, everyone. Come on, you Gunners.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah.